Welcome to Seen and Heard podcast, where everyone should be seen and heard. And welcome my co-host Chrissy and co-host Charles. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Happy weekend. How was your weekend so far? We all got the chop.
My weekend's quiet, relaxing.
Charles, what's going on in your neck? Well, our topic tonight, we're going to start off with. I wanted to open up with this. We had a conversation last week about the rap music, hip hop industry, and how it's connected to the prison industrial complex. So I'm going to play some of this video. It's only 12 minutes, but I sped it up here. So I'm going to play some of this video. So, and then I want to get your thoughts, Chrissy and Charles, on the other side of this. So.
The secret meeting that changed rap music and destroyed a generation.
Damn.
So it says, hello. After more than 20 years, I finally decided to tell the world what I witnessed in 1991, which I believe was one of the biggest turning points in popular music and ultimately American society. I have struggled for a long time weighing the pros and cons of making my story public, as I was reluctant to implicate the individuals who were present that day. So I've simply decided to leave out the names and all the details that may risk my personal well-being and that of those who were, like me, dragged into something they weren't ready for.
Damn.
Hold on, let me
So we gonna tell the story.
we gonna tell the story. We ain't scared.
You know what I'm saying? What they gonna do?
They after us. Right?
Look, black man.
So look, so he says between the late 80s and early 90s, I was what you may call a decision maker with one of the more established companies in the music industry. I came to Europe in the early 80s and quickly established myself in the business. The industry was different back then, since technology and media weren't accessible to people like that, like they are today. The industry had more control over the public and had the means to influence them any way it wanted.
Right.
This may explain why in early 1991, I was invited to attend a closed-door meeting with a small group of business insiders to discuss rap music's new direction. Rap music's new direction.
Yeah.
Little did I know we would be asked to participate in one of the most unethical and destructive business practices ever seen.
Crazy.
So this was the meeting. The meeting was held at a private residence on the outskirts of Los Angeles. I remember about 25 to 30 people were being there.
Right.
Most of them familiar faces. Speaking of those I knew, we joked about the theme of the meeting, as many of us did not care for rap and failed to see the purpose of being invited to a private meeting to discuss the future of hip-hop.
Talk to him.
Among the attendees was a small group of unfamiliar faces who stayed to themselves and made no attempt to socialize beyond their circle. Based on their behavior and formal appearances, they didn't seem to be from our industry. Our casual chatter was interrupted when we were asked to sign a confidentiality agreement preventing us from publicly discussing the information presented during the meeting. Needless to say, this intrigued, in some cases, disturbed many of us. The agreement was only a page long, but very clear on matters and consequences, which stated that violating the terms would result in job termination immediately. We asked several people what this meeting was about and the reason for such secrecy, but could not find anyone who had the answers for us. A few people refused to sign and walked out. Nobody stopped them. I was tempted to follow, but curiosity got the best of me.
That's right.
A man who was part of the unfamiliar group collected all the agreements from us. So now, it's going to get to the good part because the meeting about to start.
Talk to him, Jake.
It says, quickly after the meeting began, hold on 1 second.
Get your popcorn, y'all.
Popcorn, get your pistol. No,
For real though.
Quickly after this meeting began, one of the industry colleagues, who shall remain nameless like everybody else, thanked us for attending. He then gave the floor to a man who only introduced himself by first name and gave no other details about his personal background. I think he was the owner of the residence, but that was never confirmed. He briefly praised all of us for the success we had achieved in our industries and congratulated us for being selected as part of this small group of decision makers. At this point, I began to feel slightly uncomfortable and the strangeness of this gathering. The subject quickly changed as the speaker went on to tell us that the respective companies we represented had invested in a very profitable industry, which could become even more rewarding with our active involvement.
Damn.
He explained that the companies we worked for had invested millions into the building of privately owned prisons, and that our positions of influence in the music industry would actually impact the profitability of these investments. Then he says, I remember many of us in the group immediately looking at each other in awe and confusion. At the same time, I didn't know what a private prison was, but I wasn't the only one. Sure enough, someone asked what these prisons were and what any of this had to do with music. We were told that these prisons were built by privately owned companies who receive funding from the government based on the number of inmates. The more inmates, the more the government would pay these prisons. It was also made clear to us that since these prisons are privately owned, as they become publicly traded, we'd be able to buy shares. Most of us were taken back by this. Again, a couple of people asked what this had to do with us. At this point, my industry colleague who had first opened the meeting took the floor again and answered our questions. He told us that since our employees had become solid investors in this prison business, it was now in their interest to make sure that these prisons remain filled. Our job would be to help make this happen by making music which promotes criminal behavior, rap being the music of choice. He assured us that this would be a great situation for us because rap music was becoming an increasingly profitable market for our companies, and as employees, we'd also be able to buy stocks in these prisons. Immediately, silence came over the room. You could have heard a pin drop. I remember looking around to make sure I wasn't dreaming and saw half of the people with dropped jaws. My daze was interrupted when someone shouted, "Is this a fucking joke?" At this point, things became chaotic.
Right.
Two of the men who were part of the unfamiliar group grabbed the man who shouted and attempted to remove him from the house. A few of us, myself included, tried to intervene. One of them pulled out a gun, and we all backed off. They separated us from the crowd, and all four of us was escorted outside. My industry colleague, who opened up the meeting earlier, hurried out to meet us and reminded us that we had signed an agreement and would suffer the consequences of speaking out about this publicly, or even those who attended the meeting.
Okay.
I asked him, why was he involved with something so corrupt? And he replied, it's bigger than the music business and nothing we can do. No, it's bigger than the music business and nothing we want to challenge without risking consequences. We all protested as we walked back into the house. I remember word for word the last thing he said. It's out of my hands now. Just remember, you signed an agreement. He then closed the door behind him. The men rushed us to our car and actually waited until we drove off the property.
Damn.
So this meeting, bro.
Now that's a lot for a meeting right there.
Oh yeah, definitely. You know, and this person later on, he said, you know, this person actually ended up leaving the music industry after this happened. A few years after this, he ended up leaving the music industry.
Okay.
And he said just like, you know, over the years, he just felt guilty because he said as he sat back and he watched these plans come to a reality.
Over 2 decades.
He sat back and was like, wow, they really pulled it off.
Yeah.
They really pulled this off. He was like, they were told not to sign any more political rappers, any more rappers that had messages in their music.
Positivity.
It was all to be gangster rap music that they promoted and put out.
So if you wonder where Brand Nubians went, where Poor Righteous Teachers went, where Public Enemy went, where KRS-One went, and all sorts of groups like that was talking, even Queen Latifah and Moni Love and those, you know what I'm saying? It's a back door.
Yeah, anything that was harmless, fun rap, you know, anything that had a message in it had to go.
Yeah, that's why if you even notice though, now
we talk about that all the time.
Even be brief with it, you know what I'm saying? Those charms that came out like maybe 1988, 89, the African charms, those they lasted for about 2 years and they disappeared real quick, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, definitely. Now, after reading all this, you know, it actually made me feel a few different ways. The first emotion I felt was shock, because I was definitely taken back by this, just knowing the level of evil that's involved by even thinking of a plan like this, you know what I'm saying? The second emotion I felt was anger because it's not enough for them to exploit our culture and make all the money off of it. Because let's keep it real, the industry has never been favorable towards the artists. Never. But they're going to go beyond the artists to get the artists to influence and lure in the consumer, which they knew at the time were mainly minorities.
Yep.
In other words, keep promoting gangster rap so that the youngsters will be influenced by them, which in turn will incite them to want to act like them, and it's a very good chance they'll end up in their prison.
Yeah.
So they're getting paid twice. They're getting paid from the artists they signing, and then they're getting paid from the people that these artists influence that goes to prison trying to be like these artists.
Yeah.
So they making a killing.
A killing.
They're using the music business to promote their private prison business.
My man is right there talking that right. 1988, a man named Tom Beasley, man. That's the co-founder of the corrections for Corporation of America. That's the CCA. You know what I'm saying? Excuse my French. I'm reading this thing right there real quick. It's the CCA. So in 1988, he founded that. And this is in straight concert with the same thing. So it's like the music business. You do what you do on your side, and over here with the corrections facilities, we're gonna do on this side because. And now in 1970, there was 500 prisons. You know what I'm saying? Only 500 prisons in the United States. To this day, there's 1,700 prisons right now. That means big business. I'm talking about that. Then flip it over. You know what I'm saying? If flip it over is a word because they're making a lot of money off of these things per inmate. You know what I'm saying? So getting with the same thing of the music, it all went hand in hand, and we just partying at the same time.
So us as the artists is the tool they use.
Yeah.
The music is the bait. Yep. And the young consumers are the prey. It's a cold game.
Cold game, bro.
Cold
you know what I'm
game.
saying?
Then I felt sad. Sad because everything we seem to try to create, we always seem to give it away. We're always being tricked and deceived into believing that they have our best interests at hand when clearly they never have and they never will. They never will have our best interests at hand. It's blow after blow after blow after blow.
And your thoughts, everyone, because like that was Crazy Bone. And that's like one of the reasons why I stopped. Like I never like really consumed rap, like bought it like fan wise, like a lot of people do. But I mean, I listened to it because that's all that was on the radio and stuff. But like over the years, I've just stopped listening to it more and more and more and more. And then hearing that and being validated in the reasons why, because it's not just that, but like he was saying, they're using the music to influence culture and thought. So, what are your thoughts?
Go ahead, Chrissy.
Um, I don't know. I mean, it's 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 a hard thing to speak on in the sense that, like, when you think about the rappers nowadays, that's all they rap about regardless anyway. A lot of them are either in the streets or want to pretend like they're in the streets, and so I mean, that's the environment, that's the life they live. So it's kind of like, or like I said, or some of them want to pretend to be hard. But I mean, it makes sense in the sense that, like, you have rappers like Common, Queen Latifah rapping about unity, things of that nature. So I mean, if they wanted to keep that out of the system because they want that negative influence on everybody, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it
I
just
mean,
makes sense.
it works because, like he was saying, they don't get the marketing or the push. Although they're big names, people know who they are. Like Queen Latifah or Missy Elliott and all them. They know who they are. But like he was saying, it's so much more strategic than that. Like the when I was telling you before, like how with the popularity of rap hip hop music, people all over the world listen to that type of music, so they believe like kind of what they're saying, like especially when they're disparaging black women and black women's images. You know, I'm not co-signing that. And then also, the a lot of those rappers are not from the streets. Like P Diddy, he's from a upper middle class suburb. Kanye West,
Yeah, but he didn't do gangster rap though.
but he helped produce it. He helped produce a
Yeah,
lot of
he's a
artists that
producer.
did, yeah.
Yeah, he's a producer.
But
It wasn't exclusively gangster rap that he promoted.
right,
It was only Biggie, frankly. All the other people he had were just party vibes, you know. Um, yeah, I mean, I can give my commentary if you
yeah,
want
yeah,
now. Well, so I mean, I get where this is coming from. I think it does track a lot with the fact that, so I mean, I lived through this entire period, right? So yeah, I do remember, especially in New York, you had like Native Tongue, you had a lot of conscious rap, okay, political stuff, right? Um, and yeah, you do see an increasing shift towards, the streets and that kind of thing, and criminality. That being said, I I'm pretty much 100% certain this is just a hoax. This is classic. This it's I next to no doubt in my mind that somebody wrote this to try and prove a point, um, which is the one that we're discussing. So it kind of puts it on a nice, neat platter to say, see, behind closed doors, this was all part of a deliberate scheme. I'm almost positive it doesn't work that simplistically. It's never 100%. I mean, we had Dead Prez. They were big, or in my opinion, they were big, and they were extreme. They talked about running up on the city hall. So there was definitely still plenty of rebellious, conscious, pro-black stuff getting out there. Was it promoted as much? I don't know. Is it harder to get out there if you're doing that? I suppose. Uh, but the picture is way more complex than that. For example, um, in Germany, they call what we call gangster rap. They call politisches Rap, political rap. So they see it as a form of resistance. So it's not that simplistic to say, oh, rapping about criminality and flashing your money is nothing but, a bad thing. In some ways, it's also a way of saying you've excluded me from the system, but I can still make my money outside the system, and I can do it better than you. So I mean, again, I'm not saying that's healthy. I'm not saying it's productive, but resistance shows up in many different kinds of ways. During that period, I was way more into underground hip hop, which was, I think, the golden era of underground hip hop, and it was very conscious. And that's what Europe. You said it goes global. Europeans, Japanese, they were big into underground hip hop back then, and those groups were spending most of their time outside the country touring because they were way bigger outside the U.S. than they were here. Which again goes to show you, yeah, in the US, they're not being promoted quite as much. But at the same time, it's not as if there's some sort of cabal that runs things that gets to determine who does something or other. I think criminality in poor neighborhoods is a function of many different forces. Um, Rap is at most a small part of it, and again, not all of rap. So these are these simplistic little conspiracy theory hoaxes that get put out there to try to make a point. This reminds me almost exactly of the Willie Lynch hoax. Are you familiar with the Willie Lynch story? That again, a blatant hoax, riddled with factual errors. The second I read it, I knew for sure it was a hoax, and it's been debunked since then on a number of levels. I mean, that was a very poorly constructed hoax. But that whole Willie Lynch thing was all about how oh, this is how we do the plantation system. We divide them according to color, blah blah blah. So again, whoever perpetrated that hoax wanted to make a point about colorism and how it was constructed to divide and conquer black communities. Okay, good. I get that point. I'm not saying that colorism isn't an important issue, but this is exactly like that Willie Lynch speech where you create this hoax about a nice neat narrative that allows you to say, see, the system is oppressing us black folk. Unfortunately, it's just too simplistic of a narrative. I'm not saying that none of this all, like I'm saying, I acknowledge that narrative that yes, in fact, institutions, forces, capitalism have all conspired in various ways to create the current situation. And yes, there's a lot of oppression that came out of it. But in order to understand it, we have to understand the nuances, complexities, and contradictions. To suggest that it's some cabal behind closed doors dictating stuff is unfortunately does not help us to understand how gargantuan, massive, and unconscious the process actually is. And that's why I'm basically positive this is a hoax, but that's my 2 cents.
Well, I think he wasn't saying like the trying to wrap it up in like a neat little bow. He was basically saying telling his story, like a personal story. Now, mind you, there have been other
No, he was reading something. That's not his story.
he he was saying that that was something he went through. That
No. Did he say that?
yeah,
No.
he said
No.
that he went through that.
No. No, no, no. What makes you think that?
That's what. Well, we're not gonna.
It's not. No, he was no, 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 no. He was reading something. This is what he's reading is a supposed whistleblower who, of course, remains anonymous. Everyone that was there remains anonymous. Because in the text that he wrote, he's like, "Oh, I myself left the business and I retired." He's still in the business. That's not him speaking.
No,
No, he's
what?
not relating his experiences.
Well, he left the business as well. He's not in the business
He
anymore,
stayed in it for a long time and he's still producing. So
is
um,
he?
I know he's still yeah, yeah, of course. Yeah, those guys are all of them are still active. They have a record label, that blah blah blah. No, he was reading something off the internet that's basically like, "Oh, here's a whistleblower." He was reading it. That's not his statement. He's not reading his autobiography. That was not something that he's saying he went through. That's why he gave his commentary at the end. At the end, he was like, "This is my feeling about this." Presumably, this might be a record executive or a DJ
Hmm.
that was supposedly part of the secret meeting. If he was at that meeting, he would have rapped about it through his entire career.
Well, not if his
And you
life was in danger.
it wasn't though. That was yet another red flag. They pulled out guns and they threatened them. I mean, come on. It's 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 a 20-something-year-old young man who concocted this hoax, exactly like the Willie Lynch hoax. It's it's certainly constructed. Again, it would be nice if it were so nice and neat that things were literally done this way, but they're not. I'm not saying that this doesn't highlight important developments
Mm.
through the past 30 years of the interplay between music and this and this and that. But again, even the idea that rapping about criminality is itself inherently only contributing to crime, as if young black kids listen to rap music and go commit crimes, again, way too simplistic of a narrative, and it places the blame on them, as opposed to, no, when you grow up in the hood, there's a whole range of historical, social, economic forces that conspire you to exclude you and isolate you from the, there's so many things that go into criminality. To suggest that it's
Okay.
a bunch, to suggest that, go ahead.
So okay, so you were talking about the
See,
script.
former
There
music
it is
exec.
right there. So
See,
he's reading this
former music exec. It's not
Business
him. Yeah,
Insider.
yeah,
Okay, so yeah, I wanted to
hmm
make that clear. So this
yeah,
was written in
yeah.
May of 2012. So
Okay. See, it's been out there for a long time. This is again, they're only just now discovering this. Again, it's I,
you
if you want to do more research on this, put this article in, and then in the keyword, and then put debunked, and you'll see somebody did an analysis of it and just will just like the Willie Lynch thing. There was a professor, a history professor in Oakland, who utterly dismantled the Willie Lynch thing.
okay? So this is
Um,
the actual letter right here. That was it. Yeah,
okay,
that's the
see, yeah,
letter.
again, I'm familiar enough with the structure, form, and narrative of hoaxes, and this hits every single. It, okay, it's not at all unlike when you read your astrology charts, right?
Mhm.
Uh, it takes a very specific form that is very convincing. You know, you are having romantic entanglements, and you are suffering from sexual challenges and frustrations. Um, and you're struggling financially. I mean, okay, yeah, that hits everybody. These things are structured exactly as to hit every little thing that anyone can identify with. This It's general and specific in exactly the right combinations. It's the recipe. Um,
I'm
a
trying to
true tell-all doesn't sound like this, doesn't look like this.
let me see here. I was trying
A
to.
true whistleblower. If you want to see what real whistleblower looks like, look up Edward Snowden, look up Julian Assange, look up Chelsea Manning. That's what real whistleblowers look at. Look at the whistleblower about the financial, the lady that wrote the what's her name, Elaine something or other. You know, the real whistleblowers, they are never this vague, and they name people. Trust me.
Now I haven't
Oh, I'm
read
going to protect
all
us.
of the dot.
You're not a
Now
whistleblower.
I know that what was it? Reality Winner. Is that her name? Her name Reality Winner. She went to. She was trying to be. She was a whistleblower too, and they got her in like 2016, 2015. Reality Winner, and she was a whistleblower, but she still nobody. They won't let her out.
I don't know what you're talking about.
She's a whistleblower like Julia Assange and those other guys, Snowden.
Reality
Yeah,
winner
that's her name. Like I thought it was a fake name because I
in the military industrial.
yeah, she
She
was
was a
from the
whistleblower for the
military.
military.
She's from the military, and she was a veteran. Reality, that's her real name. Reality Lee Winner is an American U.S. Army Force veteran and former NSA translator. And she was arrested in 2018. She was given the longest prison sentence ever
Mm.
imposed for an unauthorized release of government information. Yeah, she was a whistleblower, and she's still in prison.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah,
Sorry,
that's her real
I missed
name.
that one. Yeah.
hmm let me show you her. I'll
Okay.
flip the camera, but yeah. So her mom even went on. She was been trying to get her out forever, but I thought her name was
It
fake.
looks like there's a new. Yeah, it looks like
I,
there's a documentary about her. So that's
yeah.
fascinating. Yeah.
So this is a reality winner right here. That's her, and she's still in prison. Here's a deep. She was a whistleblower, and nobody's been able to get her out. Yeah, so she's still in prison for whistleblowing. She was trying. It was, she was trying to warn people. So top secret. Let's see.
But she's
Former
out. She's on probation. She's out on probation.
pleading guilty to leaking a top secret report on Russian hacking.
Yeah. She's on probation.
Oh, okay.
She's living in Texas. She only looks like she only did about a year.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll have to look that up. I didn't know anything about her, but again, that's what whistleblowers look like. She named names. That's what a real whistleblower is. This is your classic. Again, I want to call it the Willie Lynch format.
Well,
The Willie
but I
Lynch
mean,
formula.
you could say that those situations are totally different too, because not just in the hip hop industry, but there have been other people that have had similar stories with with the same people in the industry, like in Hollywood.
Okay,
The
tell me which
Disney
one?
executives, Orlando Brown. He's one. Now he's kind of
Okay,
Orlando Brown was trying to expose the abuses that he went through, like as a child star. I think he was like a big Disney
hmm,
child star. So him, Corey
okay,
Feldman, they've like tried to
yeah,
expose things like that too. So, and then
yeah.
like with their stories, they could not name specific names because even Corey Feldman was like, I cannot give you names because he would be, you know,
Okay,
off.
okay, so yeah, I no look, I agree with you on that, but notice that at the very least their name out there. Again,
Mhm.
that's not the Willie Lynch formula because they're saying I went through this. I'm not going to name any names, but this is what happened to me on these dates. Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
they say everything but the name. So again, it
Mhm.
does not follow
Mhm.
that formula. But you're right. They really wanted to. I mean, poor old Corey Feldman. He was
Yeah.
really getting ready to 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 drop the big one. He really was, and again, that's very suspicious. His yeah, his dying and everything. Yeah,
Mhm.
and I'll have to look up the Orlando Brown thing, but yeah, him the stuff that's going on with the guys that were in that group IMX or whatever. They've been going back and forth saying that they were molested by
Mm.
so that's blowing up. But again, they're naming names
Yeah.
like flat out, and it's getting pretty ugly, because they're pointing the finger at each other, and it's very sad because what's his name, Marcus, whatever Johnson or whatever his name is, they're saying he was the older one and he was helping perpetrate these molestations, which,
Mm.
as I understand it, is exactly how pedophilia works.
Mm.
That the first victim of the pedophile, in this case their manager, um, helps then seduce and further um, molest the younger ones that come in afterwards.
And then they
It,
have
it
them.
turns out
They groom
there's
them to get more
yeah.
people in.
So right, exactly. So it turns out that's a whole thing, which is extremely disturbing. But these kids that get kidnapped and disappear,
Mm-hmm.
it turns out that's what happens to them, that they
Yep.
then help recruit and then groom the next generation, which is why they have too much shame to ever be able to return home once they become young adults. They could essentially run away and free themselves if they wanted, but by that point they've been themselves the perpetrator of so much stuff that they don't feel, and so they just get sucked into that entire world. Yeah, I saw this whole documentary about it. It's horrific. Yeah. So again, notice the difference. That's why I'm certain this is a hoax. I would be I'll be the first to admit if it turns out to be true that I was wrong, but I would be incredibly shocked if this was not a hoax, and I'm sure it'll be seen as such. But I do acknowledge what it's trying to say, which is what bothers me about these conspiracy theories, is that they are trying to expose something very real, that the over policing, of black neighborhoods, the over incarceration of black youth, et cetera, et cetera. The problematic cultures of violence and criminality in poor neighborhoods, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, all of these are serious problems, but we need to look at it in a realistic way instead of the enemy are just these bad actors over here. If we just got rid of them, everything would be solved. No, you've got to have a ton of self-healing within yourselves and your community first. And it makes it seem as if this is just imposed on us from outside. That is not the path to liberation.
Well, it wouldn't work if there weren't willing participants.
Fine, but again, still, it's deeply problematic because it offers a simplistic setup, the construction of what the actual system is, that it would never ever lead to any kind of modicum of liberation. It's primarily seen as these people out here, these powerful institutions, they did this to us, as opposed to the incredibly complex and tragic true system of how there is massive layers of complicity and contradiction as to how we ended up in this situation. So, because you do, because of trauma, have a class of predatorial people who prey upon their own neighborhoods. Um, uh, you know, uh, Look at what the Black Panthers did when they got organized. What was the first thing they do? They kicked out all the pimps and pushers. Okay. So we have to have that kind of approach where we acknowledge that no, we don't want crime. The people that suffer the most from crime are the people who have to live in those neighborhoods. They don't want to get, you know, they don't want to be oppressed by a criminal class that is, um, doing tremendous damage to their neighborhoods.
And
Again,
they
it's way too simplistic of a picture
uh,
that
and
cannot give you a satisfying solution. Go ahead.
like we were saying before, like today when I went and got my big chop. So we were talking about the organizing, like what you and I talked about last week. How what we need to do to organize to to like the Black Panthers did. We understand that
Yeah.
they bust them up and their organization up, but we cannot even understate that protesting is not going to work. Emails are not going to work.
Hmm.
Calls are not going to
Hmm.
work. They do not care about any of that. We've got
Hmm.
to
That's right.
organize organically to shut the country down financially. Point blank,
Sure.
period. Point blank,
Sure.
period.
Sure. And a friend of mine had the best idea I ever heard, was to organize the warehouses
Mm,
right eastern Los Angeles County. I think about I don't know, something like half the country's products go through there.
mm,
They come in through the port. They go out to east of LA, and they get put onto trucks and they go out all over the country. If we could organize those workers and shut down the entire economic system, the supply chain,
mm.
yeah, that would work. And I think that's the key. I mean, organizing workers. It's called salting, where you deliberately get a job at one of these places in order to organize the workplace, and then once you're in there, you're able to shut it down, and that would begin a general strike. So, yeah, I mean, you want to find a way to shut down the supply chain, um, and unfortunately, a lot of people are going to suffer as a result. Which is why, as we were discussing last time, we do have to prepare our own resilience within our own communities, which itself has been broken. So again, for example, there we go. In order to understand criminality and the breakdown of the society in these inner cities, is to understand, for example, how our communities have been broken and how the black church no longer plays the role that it did. It's not just these record executives conspiring with some
Hmm.
private prison pop.
Right.
It's just too
It's
easy.
all,
It's
but
too
it's all
simple.
connected. It's all connected. There are so many nuances and layers and just.
No, there wasn't. In their narrative, there was none of that. That's the problem, right?
But
So
I
a
still,
big part of criminal
yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah, a big part of criminality is going all the way back to how fathers were put out of the house through the welfare system. Has to do with housing projects themselves. It has to do with over policing, the prison bed crisis that I talked about in one of where the war on drugs,
Hmm.
the system of mass incarceration, minimum sentencing, um, all of these things, and then the breakdown of the home, the breakdown of our resilient communities that can support one another, right?
Hmm.
These are all things that are part and parcel a part of this that even makes crime a viable option for a young person. It's not just because some kid. I mean, it's just. I'm sorry. It's just easy. It's not
It
that simple.
wasn't. He wasn't. He. I know, but he. It wasn't supposed to be like that simple. Like say, rap. That's the whole
That's the
problem right
mess.
there.
That's the message. That's the message. These private prison corporations, armed with guns at a private meeting, came and told them that from now on we're only going to promote criminality in rap records. It's just that's the narrative. It's so
But
easy.
but different. So most people. Some people will come to a different conclusion when they listen to. I guess it's subjective because I was hearing, not saying that that was the core. I'm thinking that the system, how they strategically do that, not just in the rap music, but with TV shows and with movies. It's like who is the person behind all that? Who is the person behind all that? Who's the one that's paying those
Again, why are you
paychecks?
saying that it's only a person behind it? It's as if to take the agency away from young black men and black communities and black youth as well, who are also honestly talking about their experiences.
Well, and
That
yeah, that's
that
how
a
rap
lot of
started.
extremely poor kids,
That's
yeah,
how real
exactly, a
rap
lot of
started.
extremely poor kids. Take a look at the Southern rap that came up from these miserable projects. I mean, so much worse than the original projects, like New York, South Bronx, where hip hop started. I
Hmm.
mean, yeah, those were bad projects. Then you look at these projects like Magnolia Projects in New Orleans. I mean, that was scary. I mean, that looked like something out of a plantation. I mean, the conditions there are unreal. So if they're talking about their genuine experiences, again, it's not simplistic that it's just promoting crime. Crime happens as a result, not because kids are listening to that kind of music, but that's where they grew up. So it's also an honest expression of the miserable and dangerous circumstances that a lot of black kids are genuinely coming up through. So again, it's not that simple,
Well, that's what
and
I.
it's not that
But
straightforward.
just like anything else, just like with gentrification, the just I just heard like a week or so ago, Harlem has been gentrified. You know how the people in the community used to have like the block parties. Y'all have that up there in Harlem and Queens. I know Carrie used to talk about like how people that lived in the community used to have barbecues and stuff, cut off the streets and stuff. Since it's been gentrified, they are shutting all that down. So just like with the music, how rappers and hip hop artist started, then it has morphed into something else. just like the black neighborhoods. They have morphed into something else. They have been invaded, and now they're the people that used to live there that made the neighborhoods what they were have been chased off
Okay,
and priced
that's
out.
fine. That's a different point. I'm talking about the fine gentrification, but that's the
Well, no,
opposite of
I'm
what I'm
talking
talking
about
about.
the
There are
change.
genuinely poor neighborhoods. Okay,
Mhm.
they may have moved out of Harlem and gone somewhere even more miserable. What I'm saying is the general lived experience of way too many young black men is full of violence, horror, tragedy. It if they want to rap about their genuine experiences, it's not only promoting criminality, it's also genuinely expressing the horrible situations that they have to grow up in, that someone like me growing up in with good education, safe neighborhoods would never be able to understand or conceive of.
Mhm.
So it's again, it's not that simplistic as if, oh, this music promotes criminality. It's a chicken or egg argument. I believe it happened way before that. That criminality was what it's like water to a goldfish. It's just, if you're born in that place, you have a 80 to 90% chance you're going to do some time. You're going to get involved in crime, and you're not going to graduate from high school, blah 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 blah.
Mhm.
I
Where
mean,
you're born is a big determiner of how your life turns out, sadly,
not
in
only
this
that
country.
though, it's also your household structure too. Because I was born and raised in the hood where the
Yeah.
same guys are out on the streets. My brother's a doctor. You know, me and my sister,
See.
we work for the courts, so we didn't get into
Mhm.
that. We didn't, My neighbor across the street, though, however, she had five boys, two which are twins, but five boys. The two oldest were in and out of jail, book smart, their grades excellent, but then as they got older, they ended up on the streets with the drugs and the guns and all that stuff, and they were in and out of jail. You know,
Right.
her
Right.
brother. Yeah.
So what Chrissy's saying is the family structure is what determined it, not because they did or didn't listen to fucking rap. I'm
Mhm.
sorry, it's a way too simplistic of a picture. It's just, I'm sorry, it's preposterous.
It's
Go
it,
ahead.
it, it's
Go
yeah,
ahead,
it's
Chrissy. But go
multiple
ahead.
avenues. I mean, it's environmental plus also that nature nurture it's nature and nurture basically
Mhm.
is what really will determine it. And nowadays, I mean, I don't know at what point it started. I mean, it may have started earlier because of the whole crack era and everything like that, but now you have the kids that grew up to parents during that time having kids, and they don't know how to raise their kids. There's a lot of the
Right.
single households, a lot of the single parent households,
Right.
but they don't know how to raise their children. They're not trying to better themselves either. So you have these people that are how can I put it? It's almost as if they're not fully mentally developed themselves, having kids,
Yeah.
trying
That's
to
correct.
raise
That's
kids.
correct. It's
Mhm.
That's correct. It's generational poverty. So the children of teen parents have a super duper high likelihood of also becoming teen parents themselves. Like if you look at the statistics, right? So again, that's a far bigger determiner of whether you're going to be a criminal rather than if a private corporation, private prison corporation, tried to persuade an entire industry to promote criminality. Again, it's a nice, easy picture. It oversimplifies the issue, and is not. That's why I said it's not going to give us a satisfactory solution to sit here and over emphasize the importance of whether this such a conspiracy truly happened or not. What we do need to focus on is repairing our home environments. And like what Chrissy was saying, if you're a teenage parent and you're full of trauma, you don't have any mental health care, you don't have any emotional tools by which to um, pass on to your so you're going to be a traumatized person who's abusive, and you're going to abuse your children. They're going to grow up traumatized and have a high penchant towards, for example, criminality or whatever. Way more than whether you listen to rap or not.
Well,
Again,
now
And
look.
it's too
Now listen.
easy.
What is the other side of that? And what is the excuse for all of these white mass shooters that go into school that some supposedly have like two parent households and stuff like that, and then like the majority of them are white mass shooters shooting up movie
Yeah, they're
theaters and
almost
stuff.
all white and they're almost all privileged. Yeah, I think it has to do with the anger, the isolation. I think it's that incel culture. I think it's a toxic masculinity. I think it's also a major problem with whiteness itself.
Mm.
That's why I don't think it's an accident that these mass shooters are almost all young white males. Um, yeah, I think they're alienated. I think they're isolated. I think that there's a lot of mental illness, loneliness. So yeah, I think there is a problem there too. And again, they're not listening to rap. So again, this
But see,
simplistic
okay,
model that they
forget
have
forget
for
that, because like I was saying, I did not comprehend him saying that that was the only thing and that was the only reason. That was just one of the reasons.
I, I think that type of, like, the gangster rap and that type of stuff aids in it when a
Yeah, it was
person
one of
comes.
the reasons, not
Yeah, but
the
yeah,
reason.
yeah. No, it will definitely aid in it if the same situation, a young person who have a child and she's trying to raise a child, and he knows his father, but his father's also from the streets. That's where they met. He's from the streets. His father's in and out of jail, and everything that the kid is growing up seeing is jail. Now you hear the music rapping what you see daily. You think, okay, this is life. That's what that's what they see, and then they hear it, and that's what they grow up. I mean, off they don't know better. They're not taught better, so they don't know better.
yeah. Look, look. All of Tupac's career was post this meeting.
Hmm.
So why is he the this to this day the most sellingest rap artist?
Tupac had
He was
had
out
a
there.
message with his music though. Like
Exactly.
I was a
Ex-
Tupac fan. I'm a Tupac fan.
no,
Tupac had a
exactly. This is
message.
why I'm saying that's why exactly. That's why I'm saying if supposedly this meeting happened and you were only supposed to put out this criminality, then why was the entirety of Tupac's career and the what 20, 30 million albums he sold?
Mm.
Okay. He,
Yeah, Tupac.
he
I
he
love
wasn't supposed to
Tupac.
happen at all.
I honestly think
I know.
real
So
rap died when he died. That's just my
okay, I
opinion.
agree with you on that, but that huge piece of data fully completely contradicts this supposed conspiracy.
I
Yeah,
wouldn't say real rap die, because I think people like Common, Nas, Jay-Z's starting to. Well, he hasn't rapped too much, but like the Jay-Z's, like the old school people,
he's a
it's
corporate
just
stuff.
but it's just people are looking into all this nonsensical, um, the mumble rap and the this and the that and all this other this garbage. In my
But look
opinion,
who look who
garbage.
Tupac's mom was too. She was a revolutionary too.
Yeah, I've met her several times. She still lived in Oakland when I was there. So
Yeah, so
yeah,
yeah, his had a message. And then what happened to him? Who messed with our Tupac? Still want to know who messed him up. His
well,
music.
I'm pretty sure it was Suge. I think most people think it was Suge.
Well, he's paying for it now, isn't he? He's up there, but didn't he get life or something? He's in there for life.
Oh yeah, he's fucked.
Yeah,
He's fucked. Yeah.
him and that.
My friend lives around the corner from where he ran that guy over.
Mm, yeah, I never
He
met
knows
them.
that parking lot.
And then what? Who was the? It was oh, it's so is Suge in the same prison as that? What's his name? R. Kelly.
I
No.
don't know.
Oh, yeah, he
R. Kelly's from Chicago, so I don't know.
yeah he
Yeah,
needs.
but then and then he came. R. Kelly's all over the place because he got multiple court stuff going on. Because
Oh
then he
yeah,
was
he's
out here.
got
Because then he was
different
out here in Brooklyn.
jurisdictions.
Yeah, he was out here in Brooklyn also recently.
Uh, yeah, he needs to rot.
See, but again, the problem, unfortunately, is he grew up in a situation where that stuff was happening to him, and then he he can sing, so he got famous off of his talent, but he wasn't a healthy, mentally healthy person. So now he's famous. He don't know no better, in the sense, I mean, he hadn't had the work on himself to get better. And then you have people aiding you
Mm.
because you got money. So, oh, you like this little girl, you like this little thing, you like this, you like that. People going to bring them. And because he was rich and famous, parents were sending their kids there. And there was the one parent who was like, do whatever you got to do this, do that, like to her
Aaliyah's
teenage
mom.
self. So it's like,
Aaliyah's mom.
so in his case, it's a sad situation because there's multiple factors. Yes, he was an adult, but when he has that childhood trauma and stuff that happened to him, and he hasn't been had work on it, and then you got people aiding you to help instead of people saying, "Listen, no, that's a little girl. That's this. You shouldn't be doing that." People are bringing them, and the parents are sending them. So it makes it easy to just indulge in what you want, which is the sad part about it. Like, had he had real help, mental help that he should have gotten from his childhood trauma, that probably wouldn't have happened. Parents
Yeah,
would have still thrown
Sharon.
the kids, but
So
that probably wouldn't have happened.
right. So based on what Chris is saying, I would say, for example, a conspiracy story, a whistleblower thing that I would buy is if there was a secret meeting to make sure uh, 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 working class Americans care and not get psychotherapy. That would have a way impact on the rise in crime, and that's exactly what happened. So I think that's the real issue here, a way bigger issue than whether they could try and get people to.
When you think about it, people are now really saying it's okay for therapy, and especially
Yeah,
for men. It's
yeah,
now okay. Therapy is okay now. Men are starting to understand that this is trauma. It's okay
yeah.
to have a therapist and talk to a therapist. It is now only becoming okay in the last few years. I'm not even going to say in the last few years, I would say.
But the twist of that,
Hmm.
it being okay now, is the fact that they can't afford it. They can't afford the care that they need to get.
Some of
That
them,
Well,
yeah.
now they can with Obamacare. Yeah, absolutely, you can, Sharon. I don't know. Oh well, you're in a weird state. Maybe some of the red states they make it hard for you, but
yeah.
Obamacare. No, Obamacare has made it so that people finally can get free psychotherapy, and you can get it up to 5 days a week, paid for by the government, which is how it should have been all along. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Furthermore, Chrissy, what you were saying is right now everyone should look up their ACE score. It's Adverse Childhood Experiences Score, because this researcher at Kaiser Permanente
Mm-hmm.
started noticing these bizarre correlations that those people who experienced, for example, childhood trauma also were more likely to get diabetes. She's like,
Mm-hmm.
what? What? How could there possibly be a statistical correlation? And so, sure enough, she went ahead and went through all the Kaiser records. And now we have this thing called ACE, Adverse Childhood Experiences. Go ahead and take the it's I think it's like 8 questions long or something like that. And if you have a score of 4 or higher, you can see what your statistical likelihood is for a wide range of chronic illnesses. So
Mm-hmm.
this is where, like you said, Christy, in the past few years, people are looking into this now. That depending on your childhood trauma is a huge determiner of your adult health. Now they've understood these for a long time, but to this degree, yeah, the medical profession absolutely flipped out when this information came out, because they were like, "Oh my God, we suspected it was pervasive, but we had no clue it was this huge of a factor." And so, yeah, I have an ACE score of 4, so that's the if you're 3 and under, you're okay. If you're 4 and above, you're gonna have problems.
And you know what I will say though, also what happened, a lot of celebrities, male celebrities, athletes especially, have been speaking about mental health. And I think that's what also plays a part because, yes, kids do look up to these people. And I think that does help. But I think one of the biggest problems that I notice is you can't, like, when you know someone has mental health, you can't just have them admitted depending. So, it's situational, circumstantial, and like, especially adults. Like, I've seen in the court system where an adult parent is saying, my child just need this, and this, but it's not that simple to just have them admit it, Even coming to court, you can't just have them admit it.
Yeah,
You got there's
if
other
they're
courts you got to go through. Yeah, like my judge was like, well, this is not the venue because your child is an adult child. You need to go to another court. Maybe you need guardianship. Maybe you need this. But it's like processes that people have to go to through where if there's serious things and you have this proof, like you should be able to like have this person involuntarily checked in
mm.
to a facility to get the help they need.
Well, see that becomes a slippery slope because some people may be trying to use that tactic to get back or get revenge with people too. So they're kind of looking at it like that. But I totally understand what you're talking about, Chrissy. That it should be made easier some kind of way to, especially if you care about your adult child and you know that they're not going to do it themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that used to be easy to do, and then obviously, like Sharon was putting out, it became really abusive and terrible. So, for the most part, they got rid of it for a while. Only now, recently, the pendulum is starting to swing back because too many people have either committed crimes or killed themselves because there's too little of that. Like you were saying, Chrissy, that's why they do more guardianship type stuff now. To try and find a good in between. I had a couple of people in my life that committed suicide, and we tried to get the guy committed. They just wouldn't take him, and the guy obviously should not have. He should not. He's not capable of fending for himself. He's not capable of making decisions for himself. Eventually, he succeeded in committing suicide, but literally every single day, all day long, all he ever talked about was how he wants to kill himself. How he wants to kill himself. This is how he's going to do it. I mean, the guy was out of his fucking mind, and we could not get him. I mean, they'd hold him for 72 hours and then release him. It's like, why the fuck did you release him?
Yeah.
Mm.
Or that, or they do a 72-hour hold in that thing.
And
Yeah,
what is
it's
and what
anyway.
is
But
that? Just to to give them some
It's
sleep, to sleep
no, it's
overnight to
supposed to
try
be
to
no,
sleep it off.
it's supposed to be to evaluate them.
No,
They're
I
supposed
know.
to,
yeah,
I was just
oh
being
yeah, but
sarcastic.
yeah,
Yeah.
basically,
Mhm.
basically, yeah.
they almost never house you after that. Almost never.
Mhm.
They hold you for 72 and then they kick you the fuck out right
Yep.
onto the street.
They're like, we're
It's
not gonna
ridiculous.
get no money
And
here, so they
those
gotta
psych
go.
holds, those psych holds are violent too. So it's
Mhm.
almost like going to prison. You really don't want to be put on psych hold anyway. So
Yeah.
yeah. Anyway, that's a very big different story that we could talk about unto itself.
Yeah, that
Mhm.
needs to be. It does need to be addressed too, because everybody. I believe I'm not a doctor, don't or anything. This is just an observation from me that I think everybody in this country is suffering from a collective PTSD for the past couple of years.
I agree 100%. Well,
Mhm.
I mean collective, but I think also just personal. Long before just the past few
Mhm.
years, I think all of us are dealing with undiagnosed childhood trauma,
Mhm.
and I think that's why, as a society, we act like adult children of alcoholics, making excuses for powerful people who are clearly pathological. And it didn't start with Donald Trump. We had George Bush before that, and
Yep.
we had Obama.
Mhm.
This guy quadrupled the number of wars that Bush got us into. Okay. So we're going to sit here and make excuses because the guy talks well and he has dark-ish skin. I mean, let's remember he's exactly as much white as he is black.
Mhm.
He's 50% white, 50% black, and he was raised by his white mother.
Mhm.
So the fact that, and his dad was African, not Black American. So to think that he somehow represented Black people, I thought itself was also, again, really overly simplistic. I was not. Anyway, that's when I just gave up. I was like, "We're fucked. We're doomed."
Well, Chrissy and I talked about like Kamala Harris, how they're trying to,
There
before she
you
ran for
go.
VP, she said that she was like just a black woman, but then as soon as she started running for VP, then she wanted to tap into her Indian Asian heritage,
Mhm.
to try to use that,
Look,
and it was
look,
so
I
obvious,
was in
it was insulting.
look, yeah, I was in the Bay Area when she started her career, and so I've had my hate on for her for 20 years now. So I can't stand her. Um, don't get me started. She's despised up there.
I look between you and me both. Chrissy and me sitting there going, "Oh God, they got started." Because I do that to Chris, like I'm be ranting and raving, like our other conversations, like you were talking about Obama. And I'll be going off on all these black politicians. I'm like, they get the extra smoke.
Yeah, that's her favorite
Give me
line.
the extra smoke. Because they look like
The
me.
what?
They got the same color skin. They get the extra smoke.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, unfortunately, at the end of the day, their bottom line is not our bottom line.
That's right. They're in a different tax bracket.
So,
So in our tax bracket or non-existent tax bracket, we got nothing left to lose. So we're gonna organize
Yeah,
and try to flip tables
look,
because that's where I'm at.
it's Malcolm X, it's Ballot or the Bullet, it's the House Negro and the Field Negro. I
Hmm.
mean, these people are field Negroes, and he said it. They care more about the massa than the massa care about himself. Is we sick, boss? So yeah, it's that you look at Candace Owen, you look at Justice Thomas. Okay, these people are extremely
can you even call them
despicable.
people?
They're no, I agree with you. I agree with you. Because there's certain. It's one thing to be horrible and evil. There's another thing. The deeper level is, for example, you've got a criminal and then you've got a corrupt cop. Who's worse? To me, it's the corrupt cop, right?
Mhm.
You've got people who are perpetrating awful things, and then you've got people of color selling themselves out in order to that, to me, is a level worse.
I can't.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Because at least, let's say, for example, if you're a white person and you're a horrible, notorious racist, hey, that might be the smart move. You're at least benefiting yourself. there might be a logic to it. But if you're a Candace Owen and a Justice Thomas, what the fuck are you doing? That's just insane.
Yeah.
I honestly wish I could just like sit in a. I mean, like the thought of it makes me nauseous. But I would just like the question you just presented, Charles. I would like to sit in a room, just ask them why. Why do you do what? Because I can't wrap my head around it. I mean, it's at this point, it's predictable, but I would just want them to tell me to my face. I
Let me
want to know
let me
why.
quote let me quote a line from one of my favorite all-time movies, Glengarry Glen Ross, written by David Mamet. He says, and you, Big Shot, who the fuck are you? He said, "Who am I? You drove here in a Hyundai. I drove here in a $90,000 BMW. That's who I am." He says, takes off his watch. You see this watch? This watch costs more than your car. So when if you were to sit there and ask, "Oh, why are you doing these things?" I think their answer is going to be, because my watch costs more than your car.
Pretty much, yeah.
So I don't think there's any big mystery there.
But yeah, it's
I'm like, and guess what? Your watch tell the same time my watch does.
right, that part.
So I mean, if mine's break, I'm not gonna cry. You might. Yeah, I mean, or if mine's break, I don't need insurance on mine. You probably have to pay extra insurance monthly. Like, shut up. It's not impressing nobody.
Nope.
It is. It's impressing the people that you need to impress.
No, it's not.
When you function
You
as an
think it
executive,
does. It's not.
Chrissy,
It's
when you
not that they're
function,
impressed. It's
no,
just
Chrissy, let me put it to you like this. In Korea, and I'm not advocating this, this is horrible, but this is how bad it is. In Korea, when you meet someone, they will literally grab the back of your coat and see if you're wearing a Burberry coat. Okay, they'll ask you how many square feet your apartment is. And if you live in a small apartment and you're not wearing the latest name brands, you're not even going to get their business card.
no. But I'm not. But that doesn't necessarily mean
That's capitalism.
no, but I'm saying it's not necessarily that they're impressed. I mean, they're putting you in a separate box based on what you can afford and everything like
Yeah.
that. But that doesn't mean that they're impressed. It's just like, okay, I'm separating the two. I know I don't want the bum on the street. You know, I want somebody that can hang with
No,
me.
but
But I'm not.
again,
It's not that
if
I'm
you
impressed,
can't
but
if you
you.
can't waste yeah, if you can't waste exorbitant amounts of money on stuff that you don't need, then you're not successful enough to give me the connections that I need to further my
Exactly.
business
Yeah.
interests.
So
That's the
yeah. So it's
problem.
not
That's
necessarily.
capitalism.
Yeah.
So I mean, I agree with you in terms of values, Christy. I'm not obviously
No, no,
I'm not disagreeing with
yeah.
you,
And I'm
but the
saying I
logic
don't.
of
I just don't.
capitalism is
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I just don't know if I would say they're impressed.
Capitalism is like the biggest scam ever.
Mhm.
I mean, it's just the biggest scam. And then
well,
let's.
it's so my my analysis of capitalism is that it's the new global religion, right?
Mm,
So I that's why I refer to capitalism as hyper Protestantism. So my so people are like, oh, who are you most influenced by? Are you a Marxist? Are you a this? Are you a that? To me, I would call myself a Weberian, because to me, Max Weber wrote an essay. It's sold as a book, but it was just an essay called the spirit of called the Protestant Ethic and the Spirit of Capitalism, and he traces how Protestantism gave birth to the logic of capitalism, and so like a religion, it's full of myths that get perpetrated as if they're true, even though they've been debunked. So, for example, what we used to call, Sharon, trickle down economics, remember that? Or what was
right.
called Reaganomics, right?
Yeah, I never
Now,
got
this has
wet.
been thoroughly, yeah, this was exactly, has been thoroughly debunked. Okay. It literally doesn't exist. It's like saying there's an old man in the clouds with a beard who's going to strike you with lightning if you say his name in vain. Okay. It's debunked. It's not true. It's preposterous. It's a silly myth to get you to behave in the way they want you to. Ah, I see now. In order to understand capitalism, we have to understand the common fairy tales that people in power have always told the masses what they need to hear to create a narrative to get them to comply to a system that doesn't even apply to the people that are perpetrating it. You know, so that's what capitalism is. It's a global religion. It's been debunked. Um, we know it's destructive, and at this point, it's become so self-destructive that it looks like it's going to cannibalize the very floating rock that
Hmm.
we're living on.
Yep.
So it's a runaway train. If you look at the planning class, you'll notice they seem very nervous all the time,
Hmm. Hmm.
and I think that's why. Because I think they deep down realize this is this it's a runaway train. We don't know how to stop it. It's going to destroy everything. Maybe I need to
But
leave the planet and move
I,
to
I,
Mars.
honestly believe they do know how to stop it, but they just want to see how far close to the cliff that it'll go. Like because they're psychotic.
Sharon, tell me, how does it stop? Sharon, tell me, how does it stop? You think they know how to stop it? All right. So what is it? What? How do we stop it then?
If they would stop gouging people and forcing people into feudalism, if they were stopped with their greed, I mean, geez, the wages are not going up, but the price of everything is going up. And then forcing people out on the streets, it's like there's more than enough housing to house people. There's more than enough food to feed people. But
Mhm.
it seems
Yeah,
like
well,
they just get a
that's
kick.
literally just abolishing capitalism.
And but see, the thing is, they don't have to
As
totally
long as you
abolish
have
it.
capitalism, you will all, yeah, huh? Pardon me?
They wouldn't have to totally abolish
Sorry, I
it,
didn't.
but they need to level
Well,
the
see,
playing
this
field.
is no, no, no. Hold on. This is, I believe, where I think the disconnect is, Sharon. So long as you have capitalism, you must have poor people die of starvation. You must have homeless people and tons and 10 times as many empty homes.
Okay,
It's
well, I
fundamental
don't
to
agree with that.
capitalism.
I don't
You
agree with
have
that.
to have it.
Okay, yeah, I don't agree with
If
that
you
then.
don't have that, you don't have capitalism.
Yeah, I don't agree with that. I want to flip
Okay, you
tables.
tell me, how does capitalism function? Well, yeah, flip tables.
I
I'm
want to
not saying
flip
not to.
tables.
I'm just saying that as long you're saying you don't have to abolish capitalism, well then tell me how you can have a system of capitalism and not have homeless people, not have starving. The majority of people who go hungry on any given night in the world, almost all of them are the people who actually produce the food we eat.
Hmm.
That's capitalism.
Well, I don't appreciate them holding me hostage. I didn't sign up for this, so we're just gonna have to tear it down.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You have to tear it down. You're saying, oh, short of abolishing it, you say, oh no, we don't have to abolish it. We just, well,
Well, no,
you
I
tell
was
me then.
saying that
How do
maybe they
not
didn't have to if they level the playing field, but the I didn't hear like the
theoretically,
yeah, theoretically, but so
theoretically,
if
I think Sharon, I think we should cover Chris Hedges, because for the past 10 plus years, he's been talking about this very subject.
mm,
So why don't we cover the death of the liberal class,
okay,
and we'll
okay,
cover
that
that
was
so
the
that you can
that was
put
the
that
video that you said you want to do that tomorrow. Start a series.
long time ago. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, we'll
Yeah,
start that tomorrow.
let's do
We're
that.
we're gonna start that.
And Chrissy, you look so great.
Thank you. I try. Here, flip.
I'm invisible.
There's too much. I can't hear anything.
You rascal! You rascal. Okay. On that note,
No,
um,
I think Chrissy, I think you have to mute your mic because I can't hear anything.
okay. On that note, it, to our viewers, listeners, thank you for joining us tonight. And if you like our show, please subscribe, turn on your notifications, share, thumbs up the video. There's a Cash App here, and we also have merch. Wait, that's the wrong one. We have merch. Here we go. So scan the QR code, support Chrissy, Charles, and myself, and Seen and Heard podcast. And we will, well, my camera went off. So we will see you on the next show. Thank you guys. Bye. I'm waving.